Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about chickens and compost. So join me as we do a few things, get a project done, and teach you some, hopefully, resourceful knowledge. So the thought process is for me is basically a lot of times we take our compost, which in here I have just some food scraps from our kitchen and meals and stuff. And basically what I do is I will just chuck these out in a bowl or just into the runway for the chickens. And while that's good, the birds are able to dig through it and find what they like and what they can and can't eat. And they enjoy that little treat. But just throwing it out in the middle of nowhere it won't really benefit me in the long run. So basically what we're going to be doing today is building a compost bin that the chickens will be able to get into, but it's a specific place that I can put all of my kitchen scraps, my garden waste, and anything else that I think would be beneficial in a compost pile. And what's going to happen is to maintain a compost pile, you have to have a few different ingredients, and we'll go through all of that throughout this video. But what we need to do is one of the main things is oxygen, and that requires a lot of turning to make sure that your compost isn't just setting and molding or just rotting away. It's also being turned and the oxygen is getting in there, making it a hot substance, making it a more richer substance. So because I can't always be out here mixing compost, chickens have a good way of finding food, and that's by scratching and digging up the soil. We are going to make a compost bin inside the chicken run where I can discard all of my waste and material that I want to use in a compost bin. The chickens will be able to scratch through it and rotate that mixture, that soil for me, allowing them to find nutrients from the food, from the bugs that are in it, while also creating a richer substance that I can use in my garden later. So in today's video, we are going to be building a compost bin in our chicken yard. Let's get started. So this box layout isn't too big. It's about an 8-foot length by maybe 4-foot width. Disclaimer, I am not a carpenter by no means. I do not know how to build things properly. I just kind of do it. So measurements will not really be given in this video because this is just what works for me with what scraps I have. I kind of just use with what I have and work with it from there. Few measurements as possible, just kind of nail things together, tie it together, you know, we jerry-rig everything around here. So yeah, nothing's going to be exact. This is just going to be a quick build that will hopefully help me out in the future. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to lay a board that's about the same length of this fence row. And what's going to do is when I stand it up, I'm going to nail these big long rows to each one. And when I stand it up, it will be just like a way of just poles down the whole thing, but also a stable way at the bottom, just to make sure nothing really falls through at the base. And then from there up, we'll suggest that it's more thicker weeds, and it'll go all the way up to the top of the fence, which means I could keep stacking it higher and higher if need be. So I'm going to do that to both sides right now and start nailing those in. It's starting to come together here. As you can see, now that I have this installed, the bigger things won't be able to get through as much. Further up, we might see a problem, but I don't foresee that compost pile getting that big. I'll probably stop putting in here, or we'll start taking from it. Now we can get these sideboards installed and then find something to go in the front, and then from there, build up the outer walls just to make it a little taller. That way you can store more in it. I'm just going to zip tie the tops of these off. That way it's just more stable and in place and a bit more reliable than what it was before. Oh guys, it's coming together. We have the back next to the fence done. We've got our 2 front posts in and our sideboards. Now we need to get 1 long board, and then we also will need to attach more boards to the side. As you can see, my posts are taller because I'll always be able to add more sideboards if the compost container ever gets larger. But for now, this is looking pretty nice. So I think it's all done, guys. This is a really simple build design. I basically you saw the whole process if you watched the whole video through. If need be, if I want to add more levels on top, if it gets higher, I can always add rows to the side or to the front. Currently, I do not have another long board available to me, but that's okay because as you can see, the compost bin is not full, and it won't be full for a bit now because we are not in gardening season quite yet. So for a bit, it's just going to be scraps, kitchen scraps, and maybe some weeds that I pull here and there. But all in all, I'm really pleased with how this build went because this is something that I just wanted to whip up real fast, and it only took me an hour. Something I wanted to build that I think will be beneficial to our property and to our chickens and our garden. And I just think this is going to be a really cool addition. And like I said, we can even add more levels to it if it gets too full. But I think the girls are going to love it, and I think our garden is going to eventually love it too. But now all we have to do is fill it. So let's get into the educational part of this video. So what is compost? Well, compost is a combination of 4 ingredients which will decompose over time and create a rich, beneficial fertilizer that you can add in your soil to help benefit your plants and give them the nutrients that they need. So what are the 4 ingredients and how do you make compost? The 4 ingredients are pretty simple: air, water, green material, and brown material. But let's break down what those 4 ingredients really are. Air, pretty self-explanatory. Air is what we breathe in. It's oxygen. That's what compost needs. Compost needs maintenance as well, meaning you have to turn and rotate your compost so it can get the air and the oxygen that it needs. That's why I have decided to put my compost bin into the chicken run, because my chickens can come in here. They scratch in the kitchen scraps anyway, so they can come in here and they're able to rotate and allow oxygen into the compost all on their own. So air, pretty simple and taken care of with the chickens. Water, also pretty simple. I have a hose spout right off to the side here. If need be, I can always attach that and water it very simply. But usually the rain does that on its own. But what are green material and brown material? Those are probably the most common questions. What are those? Because you already know what air is and you already know what water is. So what is green and brown material? Well, green material is basically a bunch of materials high in nitrogen, meaning kitchen scraps can be tossed in. Also, chicken manure and grass clippings, things like those, coffee grounds as well. Things like those are high in nitrogen and are beneficial to your compost bin. So if you have kitchen scraps laying around or if you own chickens, I suggest you toss these in the compost pile. But be careful with your chicken manure as it is very high in nitrogen. I'll be adding it in moderation because it is so high in nitrogen. So what is brown material? Brown material is items high in carbon, such as sticks or hay. Sticks, hay, leaves, things like those are high in carbon, and they're beneficial to your compost pile. Now, sticks or logs are a lot longer to decompose, but they do add such a rich benefit to your soil. If you don't want to do sticks because they take so long, you can also do mulch. Mulch is another beneficial way. Hay, also be mindful with what you're adding when you add hay. Hay can house a few different problems that you want to watch out for, as hay might be a carrier of a form of weed seed. Obviously, when you're adding this compost to your garden, weeds are a no-go. So be mindful when you're adding hay, as weed seeds can be a problem. Some hay is also sprayed, so you want to be careful about what you're putting in your compost bin, because obviously whatever you put in is going to be in there for good, and then after that, it's going to go into wherever you decide to put your compost. So with those 4 ingredients now, we just made compost. Basically, the whole point of compost is to just let it decompose over time. It's little to no maintenance. Of course, you have your chances where you may need to water or you may need to turn the soil. And obviously, you're always adding more things in. That's the whole point of this. It just gives you an area where you can put your kitchen scraps, your coffee grounds, your sticks, and your garden scraps. Things that you're not using that you would normally just toss into the woods. These are items that we can be resourceful and we can reuse and give back to the earth, and it's very beneficial to our soil, and it'll help you in the long run. It'll help your garden, it'll help your plants. It's so beneficial, and I highly suggest you build a compost bin of your own. If you liked what you saw in this video, please subscribe, and if you have any questions in the comments about this specific build, I'll try to answer as best as I can. Like I said, I am not a carpenter by any means. I just kind of put some boards together with a few nails and we made what we made. I'm pretty proud of it, pretty pleased with the build. Hopefully it is very useful in the future to come. And I think it will be for not only the chickens, but also for the garden. So thank you guys so much for watching. I enjoy you being here and following along my journey. If you enjoyed this video, check out my channel. I've got a few other ones on there. I'm hoping to upload more, but that's obviously in the future to come. So I hope you stick around for another video, but for now, see y'all next time.